Welcome to Chasing Truth, a show committed to embracing the truth, living the truth, and sharing the truth. We're in part 2 in a series entitled Marriage as the Creator Designed and Instituted It. Last week we brought up 3 questions related to marriage. Our first question was, who has the authority to define it? We discovered that was God. He's the creator of all things seen and unseen, the sovereign over the universe. And so he, being good, designed marriage on our behalf and for the common good of all of creation. We discovered this in Genesis chapter 1. Our second question is what is a biblical marriage? We also discovered in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis that a biblical marriage is the uniting of one man and one woman in a single exclusive union as delineated in the scriptures. The origin, of course, of this is Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. So this week we're going to talk about Messiah. What does Messiah say about all of this? What is his view on those creation passages? How does he view marriage, and what does he establish in his teachings? So let me just state, the whole of Scripture on the matter of marriage is going to refer back to Genesis as the origin, definition, and basis for a legitimate marriage and family. Let's look at Matthew chapter 19. These are the words of Messiah. It says in verse number 3 through verse 8, some Pharisees came to Jesus, testing him and asking, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any reason at all? The context, of course, is marriage and divorce as well as remarriage. Verse 4, and he answered and said, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female? Bam. I mean, think about that. He quotes Genesis chapter 1. He goes all the way back to the beginning. He says, have you not read? Have you not understood the scriptures? And he goes right back to the very scriptures in Genesis chapter 1 to give us the framework of marriage. Have you not read? He who created them from the beginning made them male and female. Those are the two genders. They correspond to one another. And in that design, they are brought together in what we call a marriage. It's an exclusive union between the man and the woman for the purpose of procreation and the advance of Eden throughout the earth. Verse 5, and he said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is part of the purpose, the core of marriage itself. The idea that male and female would come together and be united, or shall we even say reunited. But of course, they correspond with one another, and they're designed to come together and be united. And he says the two become one flesh. Again, he's quoting from the Genesis text. He goes on to say, so they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. We're gonna look at that passage later on in some shows that are coming. But suffice it to say that God is involved in and through his design in bringing together a man and a woman in an exclusive relationship called marriage that's intended for life in order to fulfill the mandate that he gave us back in Genesis, to be fruitful and multiply, to procreate with him, and to extend Eden throughout the world. This is good. This is what we call a biblical marriage. They said to him, why then did Moses why did Moses command to give her a certificate of divorce and send her away? He said to them, because of the hardness of your heart, Moses permitted you to divorce your wives. Think about that. It's the hardness of your heart that Moses permitted you to divorce your wives. Permitted, not command. Moses didn't command you to divorce your wives. He allowed you to do that due to the hardness of your heart. He goes on to say, but from the beginning, a reference to Genesis, once again, from the beginning it has not been this way. Verse 9, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, except for immorality, and marries another woman, commits adultery. Again, Messiah, in reference to marriage, goes all the way back to Genesis, cites the origin and design of marriage as being between one man and one woman, male and female, being brought together in a sacred union and relationship where the two become one flesh for the purpose of birthing a family and fulfilling the mandate given to take Eden to the ends of the earth. God is the designer. It's He who gave us the origin and purpose of marriage. And Jesus is going all the way back to the beginning to reestablish this beautiful institution of marriage, intended between a man and a woman for life. And He's saying no one should touch on that. No one should undermine that. This is holy. This is sacred. And no one should tamper with it. In other words, it's intended for life. And the only thing that could legitimately become a basis for dissolving that is the act of unrepentant immorality in one of the spouses. So that is the only exception to the rule, if you will, at this point in the teaching of Messiah. It's a very important aspect, but my purpose in bringing this up is to establish the framework of how holy and important marriage is to God. In summary, Jesus himself appeals to Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, establishing the fact that marriage originated with God and is defined by Him and Him alone. It is a sacred and wonder-filled relationship reserved only for one man and one woman in a single exclusive union as delineated in the Scripture. So our application so far is this. Human sexuality is designed and intended only for this special and sacred institution called a marriage. All other sexual unions outside of a biblical marriage constitute a perversion of this institution and can only bring diminishment and curses into our lives and into our societies. Let me give you some examples. Fornication, sexual unions outside of marriage. It's a perversion. This is an affront to the living God. This brings only curses into our lives. Adultery, same-sex or homosexual unions, bestiality, necromancy. The list of sexual immorality goes on and on and on. These always and forever dehumanize us and release curses into our societies. The only basis, the truth of the matter is this. The only basis for a deeply meaningful and satisfying sexual relationship is a biblical marriage. That's it. Healthy marriages are the building blocks for healthy communities, healthy cities, healthy nations, healthy societies. Tamper with this institution, and you tamper with the health and happiness of a society. Well, that's it. We have one final question. Who has the authority to regulate marriage, right? Is that society, civil government, the church, no one, everyone? Well, we're out of time, but we're going to pick this up in part 3 and begin to lay a foundation for who has the authority to regulate marriage. So be looking for this in the weeks ahead. You're not going to want to miss it. Well, that's it. Thanks for chasing truth with me on this all-important matter. Please subscribe to this channel, comment below, and if you have a chance, check us out at graftedin.com.